Welcome to FiST Chat, your source for news and discussions in film science and technology, hosted by Steve Kern and Ben Warner. Visit our website at fistchat.com. Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast where we discuss all things related to film science and technology. My name's Ben Warner and joining me once again is my good friend and colleague Steve Kern for our second episode this nice cold Saturday afternoon. How are we today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. You know, it's good to be doing another episode of FiST Chat. We've got a very interesting topic today and then looking forward to staying indoors, maybe watching a bit of football.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're talking about films and whether or not they're cultural events anymore. And I say this with a bit of trepidation and concern because, you know, I grew up with movies and getting into them and loving the experience of it. However, in the past, I don't know how many years you would say, maybe the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a definite shift in terms of what types of films have been coming out, particularly from Hollywood, and what the focus has been. And in particular, the question is about the middle of the road film, the one that's got the middle budget, somewhere between $50 to $100 million, maybe, which is not an insubstantial amount of money, but
small change for some, Ben.
Yep, that's right. And but this type of film is the one that has the quality acting, the quality story, and typically in the past, particularly in the 70s and 80s, and a good chunk of the 90s, those films were the ones that captured the public's imagination. They'd be in cinemas for a year, and people would be talking about them all the time. They'd be a point of discussion. Whether it's the fact that Jaws scared people from swimming at the beach for years after its release, or someone like a performance like Anthony Hopkins gave as Hannibal Lecter, or any number of other films that we could go into. Titanic, even though some people really hate the film, was number one for I don't know how many weekends in a row back in '97. This sort of thing just doesn't happen anymore. And I mentioned in the blog that I did in this previous week about Tom Cruise being in an interview, and he joked that when he was out doing Top Gun in the good old days, he was out for a year promoting that film, and it was in cinemas for a year. And today, he's got his new film Edge of Tomorrow, which actually is quite an intelligent film. I recommend anyone go see that. Yep, it's quite good. Groundhog Day, but with an intelligent sci-fi twist to it.
I love it already.
But he was referring to Edge of Tomorrow, and he's basically saying that, regardless of how successful it becomes or how much money it makes, it'll only play for an afternoon, and then the next film will come along the next weekend. Films only have one weekend to shine now, regardless of how good they are. I think that, I don't know about you, Steve, I know I think things have changed, which means that films don't have that impact anymore. I think it is a big shame. I don't know if there's ever going back to how it was before now, given all of our content is sort of streamed to us wherever we want, and we're constantly connected to the internet, which means we can get whatever content we want wherever. So there's that, but I think there's also the type of content being produced, and it's sort of building to this sort of perfect storm of film almost becoming culturally irrelevant in that sense. That there'll still be experience-based movies, IMAX movies at the top end. On the bottom end, there may be some really ultra-low budget indie films, but there's nothing that's really, I think, going to grab the public's imagination like the films of yesteryear did.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head with the experience thing. So films will become experiential. IMAX, 3D. I think storytelling has shifted, and it's shifted to the, I guess, serialized drama or serialized sort of shows that you see now through the on-demand sites. Yep. Because you can develop your characters better, you can have much better stories. You can add the dialogue, you can add all the things that you make a great story, and that people typically read novels for. You can add them into a series that runs 12 hours or 16 hours. There's no need to go to the short format of 90 minutes. And, I guess that's it. Now you make a film, It doesn't matter whether it's a 5-minute film or a 50-minute film or a 500-minute film. It's no longer on celluloid. It's available if somebody's got it on the internet. You can get it on the internet, and you can watch it on any device. So the idea that the only way I can get that experience, the suspension of disbelief, is by going to the cinema, is not the case anymore. And that's, I think, really the crux of the matter. The actual technology that was film that gave rise to that cultural experience is actually gone.
Yeah,
it's, we're almost fully now digital cinemas. There'd only be a handful of old timer cinemas that still run film.
Yeah.
And so really I can put on anything in a press of a button in my cinema, and if a flash mob show up and they want to see Rocky Horror Picture Show, I can put it on.
Well, that's the thing. Cinemas are glorified TV screens almost now, in effect.
That's right.
And just in terms of the cultural event question, television shows are really leading the charge now. Like you mentioned, you have the rise of the binge watcher. People sitting in on a weekend watching every episode of each season of House of Cards or Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad. These types of television shows, which have been really well put together, really well produced. It's almost like a renaissance in television, because there's been good television shows in the past, but I think the quality of these types of shows is almost matching what you would get from those medium budget type films of the past.
And you get more of them too.
Yeah.
So I don't get 90 minutes or 2 hours in an afternoon and I have to go somewhere else to see it. I can have 6, 12, 24 hours of it.
And it's better cost per minute, considering that they're usually around $30 or $40. And if you're getting about 10 or 12 hours of content, that's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah, and I can watch them at 3 a.m.
Yep, whenever you want. And
whenever I want.
And it just it's reflected, I think, when you go and talk outside with people too. Like, for example, in my where I work, I don't really find people talking about films anymore. What I do find is I hear people talking about these TV shows.
Yeah,
and they're getting quite excited about, oh, did you see this? Or did you see what happened to this character? Or which is what used to happen with films, but I don't hear those discussions anymore when I go around the place. Aside from, the odd film like, say, an Avatar, which pops up, once every 3 years or something, and they're becoming more rare anyway, where that is an absolute massive experience to watch on the big screen, and obviously people will discuss it.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is something else as well culturally that's very different. You go to a cinema for 2 hours, you have to sit in silence. Okay, but you sit on your sofa and you can have your friends around and you can talk all the way through the Game of Thrones going, oh my God, did you see that? Or you go Breaking Bad, what can happen next? And you can have a dialogue. Yep. No one's going to tell you to shut up. You're not going to get evicted. You're not going to get things thrown at the back of your head. And I wonder now also with the way life is, and people will sit there while they're watching their TV show, probably dual screening or tweeting as well, or texting friends anyway. Do we just have such a different cultural identity, or set of standards that we don't sit there for 2 hours anymore and just watch someone else's thing? We want to be involved, or we want to talk about it, or we want to share what we're doing. And really on-demand viewing suits that better.
And the flip side of this cultural experience part too is that we can also record our own responses to this and upload it to the internet and for everyone to watch in full high definition off our phones. That's something that hasn't been available before. Exactly. So we can almost produce our content in response to that. It's a whole new sort of paradigm shift. Well, it is a paradigm shift and it's a whole new world when you look at it. And it's just in its infancy, even though it's been only a couple of years, but it's only going to accelerate, I think, over the next decade or so. Perhaps in 10 years' time, what we know, what we knew as the film experience is going to be a very limited sort of niche market almost.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've covered this only a few weeks ago. Would you probably find yourself at a cinema more likely watching, the 2018 World Cup than you will be watching Avatar? I mean, certainly potential's there. And if Hollywood keeps on allowing the model to drift, you know, in that, you know, you make a, you know, $500 million film and you're only going to give it 3 weeks to recoup its money, you know, then really it's not a big film anymore. Big films, as you said at the start, used to have seasons of 6 months. That was a big film. Now, you know, a big film can't hold a place in our psyche if it doesn't hold, you know, 3 months of our cinema time and everyone's talking about it for that long. So, but it's just, you know, people post their reviews and that's it. It's done. It's gone. And we move along.
Yeah, I guess just finally, I personally think it's a shame that, you know, that there was something to that experience, the 90-minute, 2-hour experience that I think we grew up on that was, I think, quite special when you had a special film. But yeah, times are changing, and I guess we just got to move along with how it's coming along.
Well, I guess we do. I mean, you know, maybe we're lucky enough to, you know, watch films during the twilight of the golden years of Hollywood. You know, we'll never see another Poltergeist. We'll never see another Jaws.
Yep.
We'll never see another Star Wars the way it was originally. You know, there'll be no more Bonnie and Clyde, no more French Connections.
Yeah.
You know, it's all Transformers and comic book franchises now. Good on them.
Yep.
You know, but
onward and upward. All right, let's move on to our news bites now. Our film news bite: James Franco and Seth Rogen's new Kim Jong-un assassination film, The Interview, slammed by North Korean spokesman from The Independent. This was hilarious. Just, you know, Franco and Rogen getting into a slinging match with Kim Jong-un's, you know, administration. And with the North Koreans saying, and let us not forget who killed President Kennedy, the Americans. I mean, this is just, it's all like, if it wasn't actually really happening, it'd be a good comedy.
Well, the thing is, you know, my God, it could only be North Korea involved in this. And I guess, you know, Seth and his mate are getting exactly what they wanted out of this situation. Oh. They're getting unlimited publicity, and it's a nothing issue. I mean, what else is there to say? Except it is very funny.
Well, the Rogen and Franco, apparently they're hoping that that they like it. Apparently, when they see the film.
Well, I tell you what, this is guaranteed to make it very popular on the black market in North Korea.
Oh, absolutely. Alrighty, now our science news bite from sciencealert.com.au. Time travel has been simulated by Australian physicists using photons, using quantum particles, and traveling through a wormhole. You want to take us through a little bit of that, Steve? Or I mean, it sounded great, but are we actually closer to actual time travel?
Well, the thing is, they've simulated it. So I guess what we have to understand, because it's a very tricky science behind this, but what they're showing is that quantum theory holds true. So what we like to do when we talk about the possibility of time travel is say, well, if we have a wormhole or create a wormhole, we can travel to that wormhole, use it as an entrance or an exit, via another wormhole we've created somewhere else in space and time.
Yeah.
What they've actually done is shown that theoretically it's possible. They've thought it was theoretically possible, I guess is the easy way of explaining this. Now they've shown it's theoretically possible, which means that it is possible that we could, sometime in the future, create wormholes whereby we could transfer quantum information through them and effectively travel through time.
Well, that's food for thought. I guess maybe the DeLorean will be suiting up at some point soon. Maybe that flux capacitor is wielding those quantum particles instead.
Well, that's right. And that's probably what this is akin to. They've kind of shown that flux capacitor might exist.
Exactly. And finally, our tech news bite. Will the Supreme Court ever figure out technology, from Vox.com? And essentially, this article points to a couple of different cases, but it's really about cases where perhaps the law is being broken, but the law hasn't caught up with it because there isn't a law governing what's covering this. For example, there was one about a court banning a cloud TV service from retransmitting broadcast television signals over the internet, things like that. And it's a bit of a tricky area because technology moves very quickly, but the law doesn't necessarily. So there's going to be holes that come up from time to time.
Well, we've already seen these sorts of issues around Twitter and social media, and the fact that it's considered a publishing platform, and therefore anything I say, legally I have to stand by. Except, of course, unless there's no money involved, and then I'm allowed to slander or, basically say what I want about a person. So there's all sorts of ups and downs, and this goes with your subscription services, broadcast services. We've had recently the Fox chairman come out and criticise the fact that search engines don't do enough to stop illegal downloads. I mean, we've had piracy for software since PCs began. At some stage, though, I think what this points to is there will be a real tightening of the law, and the internet still is largely lawless. I don't think that's going to stay that way for long.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how they go about it because it'll be tough.
Well, when a particular entity owns an ecosystem or your connections and that, and the ISPs could do it or the search engines could do it, they could cut off the piracy tomorrow.
Yep.
If they wanted. They could cut off your account. And for those of us that like the good old-fashioned movie Brazil, then you'd know that if you don't exist, then there's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly.
You can't file a complaint and ask to, be let back in the room when they don't have any records of you.
Yeah.
I think we even covered that in the FiST chat a while back.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
I think like what people don't realise is they know who we are on the internet. They say they don't, but they know who we are. And if they wanted to exclude us from the internet, they could. And that's the easiest way to enforce law, is exclusion.
Yep, exactly.
I'll leave it at that. Ben.
We'll cut the cord.
This chat gets turned off.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully not. We've got plenty more to say. All right, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, FiST Chat fans. We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Don't forget our website, FiSTchat.com. You can get all of our links there, video, audio, social media, etc. And we've just done a revamp of the website, so we hope you like it. We've got our ebook, The FiST Report, at fistreport.com, only 99 cents, hosted on Amazon, and helps to support the show. We've got our weekly blogs, photography on Instagram and Flickr. And if you think anyone's interested in our weekly discussions on film science and technology, then feel free to send them to our website. We greatly appreciate that. So that's it for this episode. So we'll catch you next time.